Bangladesh is the world's best country if you don't want to be alone. This country has half the population of the United States, but concentrated in an area the size of Illinois. It is the most densely populated country on the planet. It's also been one of the fastest growing countries in the last 2 decades. In less than 20 years, Bangladesh has cut poverty in half. Today, they are the leader in textile manufacturing, only surpassed by China. In fact, I'm pretty sure your shirt, your trousers, or something else you're wearing right now was made there. But wait a minute, because it is still too soon to open the bottle of champagne. Yes, Bangladesh grows fast, but still today, 13% of their population lives on less than $2 a day. And that's 20 million people. Add to this the fact that Islam is the main religion in the country, and you get headlines like this one.
Terrorist activity increased in Bangladesh in 2016 amid global fall in attacks.
Despite the fact that Bangladesh has a secular constitution, adulterous women are stoned to death in some regions, and 80% of the population agrees with changing the legislation so that it meets the principles of Sharia law. Meanwhile, despite the radicalization of some citizens, the Prime Minister, Sheikh Hasina, is a woman, and the opposition leader, Khalida Zia, is also a woman. So the situation there is far from quiet, especially given that in the next year, 2018, Bangladesh will hold elections that might be crucial for the future of the country. So the questions that we find ourselves asking are, well, can Bangladesh become an Islamic republic? And why do we think Bangladesh is a demographic time bomb? Well, today we are going to answer these questions, but before we do that, let's take a look back at the history.
One country, two families.
In 1947, the British Empire let the Indian colonies become independent. The parts where Hinduism was the main religion became what today is known as India. The parts with an Islamic majority became Pakistan. But things are not as simple as they seem. The Muslim part ended up divided into 2 parts. As you can see on the screen now, India was in the middle, and to the left and right there was Pakistan with a political system based on Sharia law. 2,200 kilometers divided these 2 parts that belonged to the same state. And as you can imagine, this just didn't work very well. In fact, putting aside the fact that they had the same religion, these 2 parts, while they had nothing in common, they didn't even speak the same language. Western Pakistanis despised the Eastern Pakistanis, also known as the Bengalis, and wanted to have their own country.
So in 1971, the Liberation War started. Estimations say that somewhere between 300,000 and 3 million civilians died in this war. But as a result, a brand new country was born. And this was the People's Republic of Bangladesh. This is also how Mujibur Rahman, or as they know him, Bangabandhu, became the first president.
So since Pakistan was an Islamic country and Bangladesh hated Pakistan badly, Bangabandhu designed a constitution that was completely secular. In fact, they followed the ideological fashion of the time, the so-called Arab socialism. This was an ideological cocktail that combines authoritarian leaders, a centralized economy, and secularism. But do wait just a minute here, because it really wasn't that easy. 4 years later, Bangabandhu and his whole family died in a coup d'etat made by those who supported Pakistani rule during the Liberation War. Only his 2 daughters survived. One of them, Sheikh Hasina, is the current prime minister. But let's look back at that coup d'etat. After 2 years of political stability and the influence of the CIA, General Ziaur Rahman became the man in charge. One of his most controversial decisions was to give amnesty to the pro-Pakistani and therefore Islamist soldiers who killed Bangabandhu. This is how the big ideological divide was created in Bangladesh. On the one hand, we have the family and the political party of General Rahman, the BNP, or Bangladesh National Party. They are a conservative coalition with a strong presence among Islamist parties. Some of those who participated in the coup d'etat in 1975 became members of the BNP party. On the other hand, we have the party of Bangabandhu, the so-called Awami League. They are considered socialist and secularist. General General Rahman ruled the country for 4 years. Then, of course, came another coup d'etat. Bangladesh was ruled by the military until 1991, when democracy came back to the country. But hold on a minute again here, because the Bangladesh way of democracy is pretty far from democratic.
One country, two women.
Since 1991, those two political parties had two main leaders. On the BNP side, we have Khalida Zia, the widow of Zia Rahman. On the Awami side, there is Sheikh Hasina, the daughter of Bangabandhu. Since then, elections have been a fight between two women that alternate in power every 5 years. Neither one of them can win the elections consistently. In fact, elections in Bangladesh are absolute hell. Usually, the opposition party organizes violent protests and paralyzing strikes that damage the country. But in 2006, well, things changed. Back then, the Awami League, led by Sheikh Hasina, disagreed with the way that they organized the elections. This was pretty business as usual. But this time, the military tried to make a coup d'etat to put some order in the country, like they had in the 1980s.
Elections had to be postponed for 2 years. And finally, Sheikh Hasina won the elections. In that moment, Hasina learned a lesson. The important thing is not winning the office, but keeping it.
Now, remember when I told you that General Rahman gave amnesty to those who killed Bangabandhu 40 years before? Well, his daughter, Sheikh Hasina, had a pretty good memory. And she took those memories from the past and decided to do something about those Islamists who might challenge her power, those who participated in the 1975 coup d'etat.
Bangladesh executes leader of largest Islamist party.
If this wasn't enough, she broke up one of the biggest political traditions in Bangladesh. Usually, during an election, the parliament would create a neutral government in order to guarantee a clean and fair process. But Hasina was not willing to leave power, the opposition boycotted the elections, and Hasina won with 79% of the vote.
Bangladesh ruling party wins after boycotted vote.
In other words, now, in 2017, Sheikh Hasina is the strongest leader in Bangladesh's history. And this is no little thing if we remember that this is a country of more than 160 million inhabitants. So the question is now, is there anyone who can match Hasina's power? Well, the answer is actually yes.
Demographic bomb.
As we said at the beginning, over 20 million Bangladeshi citizens live in extreme poverty. They are young and extremely religious. In other words, they are the perfect market for a radical Islamist movement. And yeah, I know you might be saying right now, but well, Simon, didn't you say that Bangladesh is one of the fastest growing countries? Well, yes, I did, and this is exactly why those 20 million poor citizens are a real problem. So listen, if you want to start a populist revolution, never go to an extremely poor country. In fact, most of the radical movements appear when countries are starting to grow or are stepping out of a crisis. This is your window of opportunity. That is the moment when the worse-off citizens can feel jealous of those who are getting wealthier and wealthier. Those 20 million impoverished citizens are a perfect target for radicalization, and they can be a real threat to a country's stability. This is why terrorist attacks have been getting more and more frequent in Bangladesh since 2013. Many of the victims are bloggers who claim to be atheists and trying to spread secularism in the country. But the real wake-up call, that came in 2016.
Bangladesh attack. ISIS gunmen kill at least 22 people in hostage crisis at Dhaka restaurant.
Since then, Sheikh Hasina has been trying to stop terrorism. Nonetheless, as I said, in 2018, elections will be held, and the government is trying to gain support from that religious population. This is why Hasina is letting Saudi Arabia invest $1 billion into the building of 560 mosques throughout the country. At the same time, she is making it harder for women to inherit money and also making it easier for young girls to marry much older men. But it doesn't stop there. An Islamic propaganda group called Hefazat-e-Islam sent their agenda with 13 political suggestions to the government. For instance, they wanted the religious teachings given at radical mosques to be considered at the same level as any academic institution. And against the odds, Sheikh Hasina has accepted that, as well as other proposals from the radicals. Don't forget that she and her party are the ones that stand for secular values, against a more traditional approach from the BNP party. So this leads us to the big question here. Do you think Bangladesh is at risk of becoming a de facto Islamic republic, or is this just a political game for Sheikh Hasina to strengthen her power before the elections? Well, you can leave your answer in the comments section below, and please do also visit our friends at the Reconsider Media podcast. You can find it at reconsidermedia.com. They provided the vocals in this video that are not mine. Also, check out my new channel, Biographics. We do biographies of notable people from history as well as the present day. Find a link to that in the description below. New videos here as well, every Monday and Thursday, so subscribe to VisualPolitik so you won't miss anything. And as always, thank you for watching.
And if you want to learn more about politics and hear even more of my lovely voice, you can join us at Reconsider Media. We have a podcast at reconsidermedia.com/podcast. See you there.